Hi everyone, it's me Leigh with Victorian Dreams by Leigh. So I've been doing the series of Create a Card, the die shapes from Crafter's Companion, and I have another one. So let's get started. A tutorial. I made the tutorial on the dress. I'll put the link down below. I made the tutorial on the cupcake. I'll put the link down below. I'm going to do the Volkswagen next. I'll come back and put the link down below on this one. But we're doing the man's shirt today, okay? And it comes with the dies that coordinate. All of them have dies that coordinate. I have not stamped the sentiments. Here is what the dies look like. Oh, I forgot to move this out of the way. Victorian Dreams. Um, Here are what the dies look like, and we're going to go over them real fast, and then I'll show you my cards in the tutorial. This is a large pocket, a small pocket. This is a watch. The stamp fits in the middle. This is the right and left sleeve, lapel, bow, collar, and tie. Okay. I will give measurements and a screenshot of it. So here is one of the cards, the small pocket, lapels, the tie, and I like using pattern paper because when you fold it over, the lapel is already there, but you can cut out and put a different lapel on it. So you could put the sentiment or write whatever you want on the back. So this is one card. It's cute. And here is another one, the larger pocket, and then the bow tie. And you can still write whatever you want in it. This is a button, but I put it in the bow tie. You could put buttons here. Here's the ones with the sleeves. So this right here is the same, this pull out is the same size as this. And so this is, so on this one I used cardstock, cream cardstock, but then I cut out these two patterns to fit right here on each sleeve, and then I saw that the blue matched, so I put this in here. So there's another example. And then this one is cardstock, not paper. Paper's too thin. You need cardstock. And it was only colored on one side. So there's the back. I don't know if I showed you the back. See that one where I only put pattern paper on the front. So this cardstock, there's the back, and then there's the front, and it's only the piece of paper. And I thought, well, you could write right here. You could leave it like that, or you could make one of those and insert it. There's so many different ways to do this, but there you go, guys. So let's get started on how to make it. I'm going to put this right here for you so that you can screenshot it and have the notes or come back and read it. Okay. So we're going to do this one first. It's the easier one. I already pre-cut the die and the small pocket. So for the insert piece, this one right here, it is 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. And I'm going to use my large Gemini. I'm going to place it here. Where did I put the dies? Oh, here they are. So I'm going to get the collar. This is the collar. And you place it down. And this told me what size to be because the edges line up here. So, and I tape it down. So let me show you. Okay. And if I'm going too slow, just speed this up. And then I'm using the larger, let's see if I can fit it both ways like this. Nope, I'm gonna have to fit it like this. I'm gonna try to fit it all on one die so I don't have to do twice. So I'm gonna do, let me have my example here. So here's my example, so I know how to put my dies because they're a right and a left. So this one will go on this side, and it's got to go at an angle and an angle. Okay, so this is looking at me, and that's what that should look like when you cut your dies out, these lapels. And when you fold it, then you fold the lapels over. So when this is looking at me, and that's what it should look like. Okay, so what I should do is just turn this over so that you will see it. And that one, so this is the right side. Let's do the left. Maybe if you had a permanent marker, you could write on these dies L and R for left and right. So let's see if that's going to fit on there, so I don't have to run it but once. And then what you would also do is get your scrap papers and put your die for the tie and your pocket and whatever else you want to use. And if you have the big Gemini, this would all fit. Okay, so let me get a little piece of tape, take some of the sticky off, and I'm going to tape this down to hold it in place. I'm going to then use my plastic. Boy, look at the warp in that. I'm going to use my plastic, then the magnetic, then the top clear. And this is the easier one. It's not, neither one of them are that hard. I'm going to put it through my Gemini. So let's make it go through. After we do this one, we'll do the sleeve one. Okay. Smooth that. Smooth that. Let's move that out of the way. This right here, guys, has been warped so bad and cracked so bad that I put hot boiling water, set it in a pan, put my KitchenAid on top of it for 24 hours, and it came back brand new. This has been used so much. The plastic white one that I showed you that was warped, I wonder if I could do it with that too. So, okay, let's put that. And then this is, to me, the back side, because when you flip this down and fold it, this has like a shinier part to me. Your paper may not, so I always put that as the front. You can glue it down or not. I would not glue it down until after you coordinate where the tie goes. You might want the tie to be just underneath it or fit right at it. So that hard part's over. And now we take the dies off, the dies off. And just barely missed the edge, so I've got to trim it myself. Okay, this is what it's going to look like right here. See how it stays on a little on both sides? So you have to take your scissors and you have to go, see that score line? There's a score line on it. You follow that score line and snip it to the score line and snip it. This is every time I use it So I've used it probably 10 times, and I keep thinking, am I not? So that's what it's going to look like. See how that's got a bump out too, and you might want to trim that little triangle out too, because when you fold it over, it shows the wrong side of the paper. I'm particular, you may not care as much. So see where that score line is? Let's see. Snip it and this paper and snip it. Okay. And go to that score line and snip it. It's done that on mine every time. Let's take, ooh, you know what? It's wanting to peel. Look, it's wanting to peel my paper. So what I'm going to do is just, since it's clear tape, just cut that tape off, and no one will be the wiser. So I probably should have scored this first, but that's okay. I probably should have scored it first before I put the lapel in, so remember that, to score first. And we're going to score, let me get my notes. Score at 2 1/8 and 6 1/2 on the long side. So 2 1/8 is the first score line on a Martha Stewart board right after the 2. So we're going to score at 2 1/8, and we're going to do 6 1/2. Okay, this card is done. That's all the scoring we're going to do on both cards. So which side do you want? Do you want that side to be the card, or do you want it to be this one? Let's do it different, and let's do this side. Let's just make sure that we line up and we burnish. Okay, and then we make sure we line up. And I did this so that there's no gap in between. See how there's no gap in between? Other ones I kept trying, and see the big gap. See the big gap, 1/8 of a gap in between here. You can see my finger in between. I kept doing the measurements until I got it where there was no gap. Okay, then because this is pattern paper, I'm able just to fold that down, and there is my lapel. I do take tape and tape down the lapel because it is moving a little bit too much for me. So I just tape down the top piece on the back so that it still has movement. It still looks like it's a piece of material. So if then I would take, let's put this one back in here. Then I would take the little bit of tape, and I stuck that down before I did the tie, actually, and I glued there, and I stuck that down. Then I took my tie, and since this is the outside, let's do it as the inside. So let's do the opposite. Let's tape it down. These ties are so cute. Okay, so all I did was go and try to square it up and just taped down. So there is the inside of the card. The little pocket is already scored for you, and you glue it and tape it, and you line it up where you would like to have it. So there you go, guys. There's that card, and that's what it would look like. Now, to get this little handkerchief, I just took a scrap piece of paper from here, and I kept cutting until it looked good, and I just stuck it in there. It was just a scrap piece of paper. Okay, so there's one card. Let's move this out of the way and do these cards. Okay, I did not make this for the tutorial. It's the same size as what I just showed you. I didn't make that, but we're going to make this. Okay, now if you don't have pattern paper, this is what it looks like before we glue it down. And you glue this here, this is cardstock, and then you glue it here as cardstock. Okay, and then you would have to rerun it and put your pattern paper, your decorative paper, however you want it to look like it. This way, when you use just plain cardstock, you use more paper, but that's okay. So to make this one, and I was lucky enough that this is white on the back so I can write sentiments, but I like it when it's two different colors. See, on this one, I didn't even tape it down yet, so I just taped that down and tape that down. Okay, so let's make this one. So what we need is a piece of paper that is 7.5 by 5, and then we need two that are 5 by 3 3/4. Okay, so first I'm going to use my little Gemini for this one because I know everyone has different machines. So I'm going to put cut left sleeve and left lapel at the same time. First, let's cut the sleeves out of the back sheet. So this is what we're going to cut first. So don't listen to what I just said. This is what we're going to cut first. We're going to cut this pattern first. So we're going to stick this right here. And it's the same bottom plate, the clear plate, the magnetic, and the other clear plate. This is going through my large Gemini, but I do have the junior. That did go through my large Gemini, but I do have the junior. Okay, so let's pull this off and not rip. This paper right here is really delicate. Okay, and I'll show you something else that happens either on the top or on the bottom each time too, is how it's got that little indent here that's not equal. When I'm totally done making the project, if it's not totally square on the top or the bottom, I go and trim that, oh gosh, 1/16 of a paper off. Okay, so now we have to make the other sleeve for the back of the card. Well, we can't cut it like that because the die is the wrong way, so we have to flip it and cut it on the left side again. Okay, flip your paper, cut it on the left side again. So let's run it through. Okay, so now at the top it's got that little snag. So sometimes you have to trim just a hair off the top and the bottom. It just depends on how you set your die. This card is not as easy as the dress or the cupcake, but it's not hard. So see, we made that. This is the back of this is the back. So that would be the back of the shirt. I do not burnish or fold those score lines. You don't need to. You don't want to wear out your paper. So okay, that's done. Let's move that out of the way. Now we're going to make the left and the right part that makes it open. And what you do is you glue this little flap to that. Okay, so we're going to make the flap openings. So you take, now you take your 3/4 by 5, you need 2 sheets, cut the left sleeve and the left lapel out next. So we're going to cut this sleeve, and the pattern paper is facing us, and let's glue it down, and then we're going to figure out which one is left and which one is right. Well, I think I grabbed the right one, so yeah, I have to, let me see, no I didn't, I have to make sure, so it's got to look like this, so it folds over. So this is the left one. So let me put this one on. And you just line this die up to the edge of your paper. And let me get a little piece of tape. So that edge of the lapel lines up with the edge of your paper. And we now get our sandwich, and we're almost done, guys, and we run it through. When I'm doing just little dies like this, I like using the smaller machine because it just it's easier, since that plastic big Gemini is so warped. Okay, so we are now going to trim the lapel like we did before and trim that off. Okay, the lapel's done. Now we're going to take that excess off there and the excess off there. Okay, we save these because it will fit your bow, it will fit your button, it will fit your tie, it will fit your pocket and different stuff, so save the scraps. So now we have, you can fold and burnish that over. Now we have the left side done. Now right side is a little trickier. So now we're going to have the 3 3/4 by 5 paper, and we're going to do the right side. But that won't work, because if we do that, that means the sleeve will be on this side, because we have to flip our paper over. Okay, remember, on the right side you have to flip your paper over. You line your die up. Line your die up. We can't do the lapel yet because it would be backwards, so we have to run it through. We're only running this one and the next one. Okay. We now take our die off without ripping the paper, and see the excess right here, that little excess lip. Okay, now there's the right sleeve and the right color and the right direction. Okay, now we get the lapel, and we line up the lapel with the line, with the we line up, gosh, I hope I've been in frame for y'all. We line up the lapel and the side of the paper and the top, and I'll pull it up so you can see. That's how you line it up. And this is our last cut, and we glue 2 places and we're done. As we were cutting all these different pieces, at the same time, I would have had my tie right here and a button or the pocket so that I wouldn't have to rerun that. So let's take this off. This is cut on one side, but remember, because we want to go to that score line and trim it totally and snip it away. Okay, we can now move, we don't need that anymore. We can now score and burnish. We only burnish the lapels on this, and we burnish down. Okay, so we have the matching. So that's our templates. We don't need any more templates. And this is the card. So you see where this score line is? We glue or tape from the score line left, and we glue and tape from the score line right on this side. So I think it's easier to do on the sleeve because it's smaller. So let's see which one. Okay, doesn't matter what side. Let's put tape and run it right down that score line, not going over. And then I line up with the sleeve to match the sleeve, because remember, I know that because of how the die is, I'm going to have to trim either the top or the bottom of my die. See how much of the white is sticking out? So that's how much I'm going to have to trim. And see, there's a little white here, so I'm going to have to do 1/16 on both. I don't know why, but every time I do it, and maybe it's because I'm not lining it up perfectly, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't bother me. So now let's glue this one on, line up with the sleeve, because you want the sleeve, and make sure it goes straight down. Okay guys, we are done, but I'm going to get my trimmer here, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to stick it underneath there, and I'm just going to straighten it totally straight. And that's how much I trimmed. But now let me look at the top. It's got a hair, just a hair to cut, which I could do that manually on this one. Just there we go. We are done. So let me show you, and then I'm going to go over my notes that I want you to make sure you remember. Okay, so that's done. But remember, on the first card we made this, if you want the insert, it will fit on both cards, and you can put the insert in. So I do come back on that burnish line, and I do burnish it once it's glued on, just to the top. The bottom one doesn't need to be all folding and everything. And let's see, I feel like I'm in a panic today for some reason. It might be because of all that virus stuff. So I don't know, maybe I'm a little nervous, so my video isn't as good as it could be, so I apologize. But this card from the original first card will fit in both type of cards you make. So see how it fits? And so that's nice. So there are our cards and the demo. So you can write your sentiments, you can stamp it however you want to stamp it, and everything. So there you go, guys. Isn't that fun? Now I also thought, why don't we tape just the bottom down? And if we tape just the bottom down just a little bit, then this becomes a pull-out card where they literally pull out their sentiment and read it and then stick it back in. You could do that, but if you do that, you may have to trim 1/16 to 1/8 off the bottom of this, because if it's glued, it's going to want to stop where you glue it and it's going to be sticking out a little. So you may want to trim the bottom of this after you cut the neck. You may want to trim it to fit. Okay. Also note, always watch the direction of your paper and which way the fold will happen after you cut. What I'm talking about is when you're doing the direction, remember the direction of your paper. You don't want the birds flying down. You want the birds flying across like in the sky. And then when you fold this over, watch the direction of your lapel. So pattern paper can be tricky, but just keep an eye on it. Okay? So there, guys, I hope you like this tutorial and the 2 cards I made. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day, everybody. Links will be down below for all the cards and all my groups and Facebook group and my Pinterest, my Facebook blog that I've had for years, and now they don't even let you have a Facebook blog anymore, and all that. Have a blessed day.